stupid. Everybody's so stupid.
Good thing about doing comedy in Russia, you have captured audience.
You're stupid. Everybody's so stupid.
Comedy History 101.
Dude, a frog! Frog baseball! Get him!
Yes, to be continued. No animals were harmed in making this. So what we just heard was a brief clip from the Mike Judge animated short Frog Baseball. And yeah, that's a good way. Yeah. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of
Comedy History 101,
where we talk about the history of comedy. Go ahead, you can do the bum bum bum.
Bum bum bum.
Yeah, so I'm Harmon Leon, and with me as always is non-robot talking voiced Scott Calonico. Or you could do your own intro.
Hello everyone, how are you?
There we go. Yeah,
that's kind of that was my sexy voice.
Yeah, so welcome back. This is our first podcast of 2018. And Scott, you know what else this is the first for?
What's that?
The first podcast we've done where I have a new microphone.
New mic. We've got to iron out the bugs still. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, it might be a little bit echoey, but we do have a new mic because it's kind of about our theme of 2018, onward and upward.
Is that what? So 2018 is like we're not going to look behind. We're going straight ahead. We're going up.
With a new mic.
Right. A new mic, a new format, new logo maybe. Who knows? Who knows how far we're going to go?
Yeah, a new name for our podcast, 101 History Comedy.
Oh my God, it's all backwards.
Beep beep bah.
Yeah, that's
like even our tonation is backwards.
No, that's like the
our sting. It's our sting.
That's like the new thing that kids are all doing on the Facebook. Is they're putting their names in backwards.
Oh.
Yeah.
You call that ironic?
No, they're just doing it so people can't find them.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was pretty. I was like, oh, interesting. All right.
Or they just go on the Instagram.
Oh, the kids are all on Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, what we just heard a clip from was from the 1992 animated short Frog Baseball, which was designed and created by who, Scott?
Mr. Mike Judge.
Mr. Mike Judge.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go, dude.
No, this is very exciting because this is actually a podcast where we're talking about a gentleman that we've met. You've met Mike. Did you meet him or?
I met him once through Johnny down at the room.
Yeah. So we've both met the subject of our podcast, or the creator of the subject of our podcast. So I thought that was interesting.
Because what we do is we drop names here on Comedy History 101.
Sometimes you do, as you do.
And as we do. But the thing is that was the animated short that spun off into the TV series Beavis and Butt-head. And if you've been living under a rock for the last couple decades, Beavis and Butt-head was the animated series that ran on MTV from 1993 to 1997, and then again it picked up again in 2011. What would you say the premise of Beavis and Butt-head is?
It's basically actually, I was going to highlight this with you, Harmon. There's a point I was going to bring up. Basically, it's the adventures of two kind of metalhead teenage kids in the country somewhere. Now, maybe this is a good place to start if you'd like. The thing is, you pointed out that, or you read somewhere that it takes place in Albuquerque, which could make sense, which was Mike Judge's hometown. But actually, I don't think they ever say where they are in any of the episodes.
Right. So, it could – so what you're saying is it could or couldn't be Albuquerque.
Well, some people have also said that it might be Texas because Judge is also from Texas. He was from Dallas. He lived in Texas when he did this. He was living in Dallas when he made the show. So they're thinking it could be like one of those weird Dallas suburbs or something.
Ah, interesting. But we have some of Mike Judge's earlier work that might even signal exactly where that was. So Frog Baseball originally was a short created in 1992 for Spike and Mike's Sick and Twisted Film Festival, and it was shown at the midnight show.
Right, yeah, that was. I remember actually seeing this at the Spike and Mike thing. So that must have been 91 or 92, I think. But
92.
Yeah. So the sad thing is, sadly, Spike and Mike, the end of the festival almost coincided with the rise of the internet. So like, looks like the last year they kind of did it was 2002.
Yeah. So before, for those who might not know what Spike and Mike's Sick and Twisted Film Festival, before there was YouTube, you had to actually go out and see animated shorts at a cinema.
Yeah, exactly.
Or on a VHS tape. What does VHS stand for?
Video home system.
You had to see it on your video home system.
And then you would have to have tape this is a whole nother podcast again, but the idea.
Yeah. See, I think I had commented.
The whole idea of tape traders, where you used to have to like trade tapes with people, and then mail them physically, Hey, I found this great Beavis and Butt-head cartoon. I'll mail it to you.
Yeah. So. Yeah, exactly. So how it came about was someone from MTV saw the short at Spike and Mike's Sick and Twisted Film Festival, and then it premiered on a MTV show they had called Liquid Television.
Liquid Television, home of Aeon Flux. Yeah, and that was kind of the first that they were using CGI computer graphics, back in the 90s, and that was.
Yeah, there's a lot of I remember of Liquid Television, a lot of animation that looked like Max Headroom.
Right, yeah, there's a lot of that, and just, but it was interesting. And then I know we're gonna sound like old dudes here, but it's back when the MTV would actually kind of do some original kind of daring programming,
like Beavis and Butt-head.
Well, Liquid Television itself, that was crazy. To see that on TV, that's like where you would have to go to watch cool new stuff. That's where you go. Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of like the animated YouTube.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So, and then now you have YouTube, so there's really no place for Liquid Television.
No, there's not. You can everything's on demand now. So you just go. I want to go watch this. Blah blah blah. There it is.
Yeah. So. Why don't we spin back and tell a little bit about who this Mike Judge guy was and how he came into doing animation?
Okay, go ahead, Harmon.
Go ahead, jump in at any time. I'm just reading down the list.
So no. Well, I mean, the first.
We both trade off on the segments.
Well, I think the first thing when you see about Mike Judge, it says he was born in Ecuador, and you're that's weird, but like because his dad was a archaeologist and working down there, I think.
Right.
Correct. Yeah. So he, that's weird. That's an unusual place to be born, but that's interesting if you're not from Ecuador. But yeah. So his dad was a archaeologist that was working down there, and then wound up getting, I think, a big kind of professorship in Albuquerque.
Yeah, that's right. I think his father worked for a nonprofit organization promoting agricultural development in Ecuador.
Okay.
Which is kind of brainy, and his mother was a librarian. So he didn't start out in animation. He went to the University of California in San Diego, and he studied physics.
UCSD, dude, party school.
Yeah. No, that's not the party school. The party school is San Diego State.
Oh, okay, yeah, sorry. All right, yeah, all right.
Yeah, I know because I went one semester.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
no, that's
yes.
actually a
Right.
prestigious good school.
But that's not what's the super party school, the one up north? Chico State.
Oh, that's way up
Yeah,
north.
that's way up north, yeah.
The UC Californians have a lot of party schools in their system.
Okay, all right.
Northridge, San Diego State.
Northridge, that one doesn't count.
So he was becoming interested in a career in science and began to focus on animation and creating short films. But before that, so after graduating in 1986 from UCSD with a bachelor's in science and physics, his first job, which later gets focused on the show Silicon Valley, was working as a programmer for the F-18 fighter at Support System Associates Incorporated.
Yeah, that was the first thing when I heard an interview with him, and it was just, that's so crazy. It's like, I couldn't imagine that guy, the guy who created Beavis and Butt-head, working for developing software for a fighter plane, you know?
Yeah, exactly. and then in 1987, he moved to Silicon Valley to join Parallax Graphics. Am I pronouncing that right?
Well, that's good, yeah.
Yeah, which was a startup video card company with about 40 employees in Santa Clara. So,
all right, you ready? Sorry, I had a trivia note here.
Sure.
My dad went to college in Santa Clara.
Nice, dude.
Yeah.
And also in the movie Bend It Like Beckham, the women's soccer player, how it all pays off, she gets a scholarship to go to Santa Clara University.
Santa Clara. Oh, fair enough. All right.
Yeah, a little trivia. You learn things here.
Yep, it all ties back together.
Yeah. But what's a startup video card company? So you're just you're creating just software to up your game on video editing?
Well, I think this is like kind of also, well, maybe, but it also was back when a lot of news companies were doing this stuff. Like, have you seen that? A side note, but still, I think pertaining to the podcast. Have you seen that Tim's Vermeer documentary? The one that Teller did, or Penn? No, Penn.
No. And who is Tim Vermeer?
The story is about this guy who worked for it's called the New Tech Video Toaster. That was another video card company in the Valley at the same time, and this is the guy who wound up making tons of money because basically every news station in the States used this card and his system that he invented. And then basically he got so obsessed with he got really obsessed with the painter Vermeer. And so that's a highly recommended documentary if you can get around to it. While we're because it ties into Mike Judge and drawing and things. Basically, this guy's theory was that what the Vermeer, the painter, was doing was basically projecting a real life image on a wall and kind of tracing it. And so he tried to recreate that in the documentary.
I think I saw something about that, but I heard that theory of kind of Renaissance era painters that were projecting onto the wall and painting it.
Yeah, that's what it's about. So it's pretty good. Kind of ties into the whole video card thing and drawing and whatnot. So all right.
So when Mike Judge was working in Silicon Valley, how did that go for him? Did he like it? Did he dislike it?
Well, Harmon, let me throw this out here. I would say he probably didn't care for it too much. I mean, he was just saying he was just like the people there were just I didn't believe what they believed in something and I don't know what it was his quote, which I can see, you know, having worked in the high tech field myself. You get it. It's kind of exciting if you're with a team with a bunch of people working for something, but then you're like, well, you know, we can all get fucked over at any time. You know, it doesn't really matter. This isn't our product. And what I've learned from like living in San Francisco and working for startups is when they say we can't pay you a lot right now, but we're going to give you a lot of stock shares, equity.
That usually means you're gonna be fucked over.
Yeah, that's what it is. But so he got a little fed up with that, and then he wound up quitting to become a bass player with a touring blues band. The what was it, Anson Funderburg?
Yeah.
Wait, actually no. Let me pronounce it like the Scottish way. Anson Funderburg.
Yeah. Is he a known entity?
I don't know. I've never heard of him.
Yeah, so basically, he got fed up with the Silicon Valley sort of lifestyle, and he toured with a blues band as a bass player. But in 1989, after seeing animation cells displayed in a movie theater, Judge purchased a Bolex 16mm camera and began creating his own animated shorts.
I've shot with a Bolex 16mm one. It was one of the ones that you had to hand wind. You had to hand wind.
Yeah, that's what I think of when I think of Bolex. So,
Yeah.
and again, so what do you know anything about the process of that when he's shooting with a 60 millimeter to create? So he's just creating hand-drawn animated cells and then shooting them individually with a Bolex?
Yeah, I mean that's the deal. When you draw it, you put it down, you shoot usually a frame or two. I don't know exactly how many you do, but then that's what it is. And then you put the next one down, then you shoot, then you put the next one down. So it's pretty painstaking. So he did it the really old school way.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so to create like something like frog baseball, like how painstakingly do you think that would take to achieve?
I don't know. It could be like watching it again, like what he does, and what I think he's really good at. Like he kind of he'll reuse certain shots a lot.
Frog baseball! Get him!
And there'll be a lot of reaction shots where like somebody will do something, like Beavis will do something, and then they'll cut to Butt-head, which is essentially there's nothing. It's just a reaction shot of his face, so there's no animation involved. So he's pretty sparse with his style. I mean, that's if we could talk about the style for a little bit. I mean, like.
Yeah.
I think Judge is like, this is the best example of, it looks like shit, but it works for some reason. I mean, it's not like classically beautiful animation, but I think it's entertaining to watch,
Yeah, I think it works for him. But Judge was like the highly critical of the animation, just looking back in retrospect, that he actually didn't really like the, coming from like 2018 eyes, didn't really like the animation done in the early like Beavis and Butt-head, but I think it works.
I think it works. I mean, but I think that's part of the deal. I mean, because I know other people, people that I've worked with before who really want to do animation, but I would just say their animation is just bad. But whereas Mike Judge, it's got its own style, and it kind of works. Everybody's kind of ugly. Like especially if you look at that inbred Jed, he's kind of scary looking.
Yeah, no, I think it works. But like the animation style you were talking about, that's like a trick from like early Hanna-Barbera type cartoons where only like one little portion moves and everything else is sort of stagnant or reused.
Yeah, reused in the background and stuff. I mean, I think it's funny going back over this and watching it, especially when you watch the first Frog Baseball when they have the TV at the beginning, and then you can see the light bulb in somebody at MTV's head going off. Hey, wait a minute, we can do this. We'll buy this cartoon and have them do that to MTV videos, which was, I think that was such a big part of the show that, that's the part that gets cut out when it gets syndicated, when they were watching the videos.
Oh yeah. And so, just to refresh everyone, like the start of Frog Baseball in the original Spike and Mike twisted animation version is Beavis and Butt-head are channel surfing like Suzanne Summers, Thigh Master, and a few other just crappy sort of TV commercials.
I guarantee it. Tonight at 9.
Then I found Thigh Master. With Thigh Master, it's easy to squeeze your way to more shapely hips and thighs.
Just sort of laughing at it.
Yeah, I think I think it's the first one, the very first one they show is the Hair Club for Men. That was it.
Yeah.
Do you remember that one? That was the one where what would you like mail order hair or something? The Hair Club for Men. Cause he goes,
I just remember that dude going, not only am I the president, but I'm also a client.
That's right. Yeah, and it worked for me. That was it. That's the quote in there. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure that's what that was.
Yeah. So easily the pitch of that was like what if instead of like having infomercials, they were watching MTV videos.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you can see how that would totally work.
And here's a quote from Mike Judge of how he describes the early animations of that Frog Baseball era Beavis and Butt-head. He described it as awful. I don't know why anyone liked it. I was burying my head in the sand. So kind of critical.
Yeah.
Kind of critical.
Yeah, he was a little critical, but he did all right by him, and a very nice gentleman to boot.
Yeah. So, anyways, just to go a little further, like into the very early Mike Judge animation era. So, in 1991, he created a short called Office Space.
Oh,
Oh, hello, Milton. What's happening? I'm going to need you to go ahead and move your desk again. So, if you could go ahead and just get it as far back into that corner as possible, that'd be terrific. But that way we'll have some more room for some of these boxes and things we need to put in here. Well, okay. And, there's that stapler I've been looking for here. Let me just go ahead and get that from you. Thanks. Well, okay, so if you could go ahead and just get to that as soon as possible, that'd be terrific. Well, all right. Thanks a bunch, Milton. Okay. Bye-bye.
yeah, that's great. So I think I'm 99% sure they also used to show these on MTV. I'm pretty sure I saw Office Space on MTV. Or not MTV, Saturday Night Live.
Yeah. So actually, Comedy Central in 1991 acquired Office Space following it appearing at an animation festival in Dallas. Mm-hmm. And it's in that same sort of Beavis and Butt-head style. Are you okay, dude?
Yeah, dude. So went down the wrong way. It's okay.
Oh, right. But that information went down the wrong way?
No. The truth went down the wrong way. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So that was a part of a series of shorts called Milton's Series of Shorts.
Okay.
So the lead character is Milton, and as we all know, that spun off into the non-animated feature film Office Space.
Yeah, it's so fun. It's so funny how rewatching that, but that is like word for word from the movie, you know.
And as a matter of fact, here's the stapler scene from the feature movie Office Space.
Hi, Milton. What's happening? I'm going to have to ask you to go ahead and move your desk again. So if you could go ahead and get it as far back against that wall as possible, that would be great. No.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, it's word for word. So, again, like Mike Judge had all these ideas and, he later reused it. Like, going from, one of his first animated shorts, Office Space, to, his time in the 80s working on Silicon Valley, to create the TV show Silicon Valley.
Yeah, and here's the thing, though, about like, everybody thinks that, looking back, they think that Beavis and Butt-head was just an immediate hit. But it was a pretty big hit. But then there was it kind of slowed down for a while. But after the first season,
mm-hmm.
Do you know about that?
No, I don't.
No, they had to. Well, basically, they did the first season, and then MTV was like being pretty smart and cagey about it because they saw it was catching on, and then they were like, they stopped showing it for about, I think, 2 or 3 weeks. So they showed like the first. I can't remember how many episodes. They showed the first 4 or 5 episodes, maybe. It started catching a little bit of a buzz, and then they stopped. And then they held back. And then
scarcity creates
scarcity,
demand.
That's right. Marketing 101. Yep.
Theory.
Marketing 101. Yep. That was it. Yeah. So they kind of held back, and then they went full throttle. So then it continued to run for another 5 or 6 years with the and then renewed it in like whenever was that 2011?
Yeah, in another KG MTV move, I think they paid Mike Judge maybe $10,000 to get the rights for Beavis and Butt-head.
Oh God, yeah, Jesus,
and he had none of the merch in his contract.
Yeah, he didn't get any of that. I remember like when so our friend Johnny Hardwick was staying with me. You remember when I was living in Austin, and Mike Judge came by to pick him up. But he did have a new car. He was like, "Yeah, MTV bought me that car."
Yeah, I think it paid off in the end. It worked out for Mike Judge in the end. But he got basically in the initial contract, he got screwed out of all Beavis and Butt-head
the royalties,
merchandise. And by far there was more money to be made in the merchandise.
Yeah, but he made out in the end. He made out for himself. That's the thing.
Yeah. So, anyways, going back to early Mike Judge's stuff that led to Frog Baseball, in 1991, he also had a short called Inbred Jed.
First, I'd just like to say that it's really great to be here. I mean, it really is. It's real good. Good God, it's good to be here. I don't know where to begin to tell you. Damn, it's good to be here.
Which also, I think it was financed by Spike and Mike's Sick and Twisted Film Festival, as I read.
Okay. I forgot about. I actually laughed out loud at the play some Skinnerd. That guy.
Play some Skinnerd, man.
Yeah, so basically just explain the plot of Inbred Jed, that animated short, let our folks who are listening know.
Well, there's not really much of a plot. It's just Inbred Jed and his band, the Hillbillies. I can't remember the name of his band. But they're just playing music, and the assorted regulars of the town are watching them, including one guy who just continually shouts out, "Play some Skinner!" But I think what's the funniest part is the voiceover at the end that kind of wraps it all up, so it just makes it funnier than just stupid. Here's stupid people being dumb watching country music. The voiceover at the end, it turns into a public service announcement against inbreeding.
Before you decide to have children, check to make sure that you and your spouse are not related. Remember, inbreeding is everybody's problem.
Oh yeah, and again, here's another tie to Beavis and Butt-head. The aforementioned character you just spoke about, who yells "Play some Skinnerd," was later named Dave and appeared in a few early Beavis and Butt-head episodes.
Yeah,
most notably the episode "Way Down Mexico Way."
Okay, all right, very nice.
But here is the overreaching loop that ties this all together and brings us back to modern day Mike Judge and Beavis and Butt-head. When Frog Baseball, the Beavis and Butt-head short, first appeared at Spike and Mike's Sick and Twisted Film Festival, how the short opened was a title card that said Inbred Jed's Homemade Cartoons, with the character Inbred Jed staring at the camera and cackling, kind of like the MGM lion.
Right, but it was kind of an evil hillbilly inbred cackle.
Yeah, so again, that tied into like early Mike Judge's early animation, which forwarded into, like, spun off into Frog Baseball with Beavis and Butt-head, which spun off into the Beavis and Butt-head MTV series, which, and this we're on the home stretch here, and we're gonna wrap this all up nicely, which spun off into King of the Hill and the not so often mentioned Good Family, which spun off into Office Space and Silicon Valley and Idiocracy, bringing us back up to date with the Mike Judge we know, which all started with his animated shorts and his time working in Silicon Valley.
Mm-hmm. Nice wraparound, and then again, we do know one of a couple of the writers on the Good Family. I think that those guys also wrote for the Beavis and Butt-head when it came back out. Harmon and not Harmon, just you. Chip and Howard Kramer wrote for. I know Chip did. Chip wrote for the new.
Oh, really? That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So
nice. And so then, just to take us home, Scott, what do you think Frog Baseball's place is in comedy history?
Comedy history. Well, you know what? Here's the thing, and I think this is even back then. This is true today. Because especially with all the YouTube stuff that's going on, and because I know all those guys who started Rooster Teeth, which is crazy. Which is basically these guys started making videos and putting them on YouTube, which is basically what Mike Judge was doing before YouTube. He made his Frog Baseball. He's like, I don't like being a software engineer. I want to play bass. I want to make cartoons. He just bought himself a camera, went out there and did it, and that's Chut's paw.
Yeah, I guess that's an excellent summary because he was part of the DIY culture, you know, and he just like, okay, I know there's this film festival out there. I have these ideas. There isn't a YouTube. I know he didn't say that to himself because he wouldn't know what a YouTube is.
How could you have said there's no YouTube, so what do I do?
Yeah. So, you know, the next best thing to YouTube was just, you know, film it yourself and get it into this animation festival. And you know, it was a huge festival back then, you know?
Yeah, the Spike and Mike was a big deal because it also toured around the country. So it was it was very proto-internet.
And by the way, just a sub note, the golden boy of that festival was Bill Plimpton.
Oh yeah, Bill Plimpton and Don Hertzfeldt. He was another big one that was in there.
Yeah, and again, even in Mike Judge's early animation, you could see a bit of a Bill Plimpton style within the animation.
Oh yeah, definitely. And well, Don Hertzfeldt even just as much so too, because he was like he did like stick figures and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, so there we go. We wrapped it up with a nice bow. Our first podcast episode of 2018 for Comedy History 101. So once again, please subscribe on YouTube. Please comment, donate on our website, Words Over Chair, where you can actually read more about this podcast, and we will have all the clips that we mentioned in the podcast will be up on Words Over Chair on our production company's website. Anything else, Scott? Anything you want to plug?
Do I have anything to plug? No, not yet. I have a few different movies in the works. Everyone out there probably knows that Harmon and I both are doing videos for a very cool website called Timeline. So I just finished one about the Berlin Wall. So that's up there. And what was the last video that you did, Harmon?
Well, I'm working on one on Mobs Mabley, which will also be a podcast episode.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and also, just last little plug, I have a new book out called Meet the Deplorables, Infiltrating Trump America. It's about my other life, which is going out undercover in disguise and infiltrating extremist groups in America. In this case, it's Trump America. So you can check that out on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or my website, harmonleon.com.
And then you can also find these podcasts at wordsoverchair.com. And you can also on iTunes, Spotify. I don't think we're on Spotify yet, but you can find us on iTunes, Google Play, Last.fm, Stitcher, right? Yeah, and a few other places.
All right, so until next time, bye-bye.
Bye.
You're stupid. Everybody's so stupid.
Good thing about doing comedy in Russia, you have captured audience.
You're stupid. Everybody's so stupid.
Comedy History 101.